UFC legends.
Bigfoot smelling blood in the water.
Former world champions.
One of the greatest heavyweight fights we have ever witnessed.
Both determined to rise to the top. Again. Plus Barboza. Johnson.
Oh, and that one opened him up.
What a huge knockout.
UFC Fight Night.
Welcome to another edition of Bookie Beatdown, your one-stop shop for all the analysis, advice, and predictions you need to make money in the world of mixed martial arts gambling. I'm Paul Shaughnessy. Joining me as always, we have the one and only Cody Saftik, the only guy I've ever known to have a shrine dedicated to people in the MMA sphere's mugshots.
You know what I was actually considering? Thanks for the fun facts before every show. But
that one is pretty fun, and he's got everybody. He's got Joe Vedepo, he's got Ariane Celeste, he's got War Machine, obviously, Brian Rogers.
Guys like Mike Whitehead, Strikeforce vets getting it done.
It's pretty impressive.
I was actually thinking about the other day. Nothing against Conor McGregor poster behind me here, but I was thinking I should build the mugshot board and just have it behind me. But I don't want to rub anybody the wrong way. But hey, you committed the crime. You need to deal with it.
I think if we get a Bristol board, that would actually be a nice little addition that we could add to the podcast.
I'd fancy it up and get some high-res pictures of their mugshots, of course. At least the ones you can. You get those weird ones. You'll have 20 Crazy Horse Bennetts or 5 Mayhem Millers, but I'll pick the good one out.
All right, count me in on that. All right, let's get into the action here. Fight Night 61, Bigfoot Silva versus Frank Mir goes down this Sunday in Porto Alegre, Brazil. Obviously, in the main event, we've got Antonio Bigfoot Silva. He comes in as a minus 290 favorite. The comeback on Frank Mir, plus 245. Mir hasn't won a fight since UFC,
2011.
Since UFC 140 when he broke Big Nog's arm.
In Toronto. Good time.
4 straight losses during that time. So many other questions about, his adversary in this fight, and Bigfoot Silva, who was looking pretty good up until, his fight against Hunt, which was arguably fight of the year. Well, he was really, really high on TRT for that fight, or his levels were very, very high. So a lot of these are, kind of the Masters division of the heavyweight division, and a lot of questions surrounding these guys. Both of them really need a win at this stage in their career. Who do you like in this one?
Both of them need a win desperately. And Paul, we talk about this from time to time, especially with heavyweights. This is really a coin flip fight. I couldn't really tell you who's going to win because there's too many question marks on both ends. With Frank Mir, hasn't won a fight in his last 4 outings. He's been knocked out 8 or 9 times in his career. Mm-hmm. With Bigfoot, if he looks anything resembling what he looked like against Arlovsky, which is a 265-pound featherweight BJ Penn, standing flat-footed with his hands just straight in the air, I have no idea what the game plan was. I have no idea. To me, that really signaled the end of his competitive career. The TRT is gone. He's flat-footed now. His gigantism is really becoming an issue.
We were all worried when he was coming into that fight, though. It
I bet him big going into that fight. I didn't think it was going to be an issue.
Turnaround for him. Maybe he's got it together at this point, but yeah, I don't think I would be laying minus 290. That being said, on the other side of the spectrum here, we got Frank Mir, and he hasn't won a fight in over 2 years.
Yes, but the fact is,
he hasn't really shown extreme punching power in his UFC career either. So he's not like a one punch knockout kind of guy.
I agree. The only time he's shown good striking is maybe the Nogueira fights, where even in the last one, he has a good southpaw stance. He throws a good left hand. I could definitely see Frank Mir hurting him. Does he have the knockout power? Maybe not. The fact is, Andrei Arlovsky was a guy that people said the same thing. Oh, he doesn't have the knockout power. Not only did he knock Bigfoot Silva out, he knocked him out hard. And the fact is you've got the most power in the first round. That's what it was, as a first round stoppage. But Bigfoot looked very, very flat. I can't bet against him. Now, when I'm looking at this fight and I think, geez, you know what, this could go either way. Well, what do the odds makers have it at? The odds maker has Antonio Bigfoot Silva as a big favorite. Yeah. I don't get that. If this is a 50-50 fight, then the value lies on the underdog. And if I can get Frank Mir for a good price, and he's currently at a good price, then why not? He most definitely has ways to win this fight. Most definitely.
Yeah, and I was looking at some of the props on this one. The props didn't really impress me all that much. The only prop I did potentially like was Frank Mir. Round 1 was 6-1 on your money.
Right.
So that's not too bad. I suppose he is a plus 245 favorite already. So maybe it's safer just to pick him.
Yeah, plus
just to pick him outright. But definitely something to take to keep your eye on moving forward. Let's move on to the lightweight division where we've got Edson Barbosa taking on Michael Johnson. Edson Barbosa is a -145 favorite with the comeback on Michael Johnson +115. Really, really good technical fight. This is the best fight on this card.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Bar none. This is two legit top 10 guys in basically the best division in the world going at it. My only concern with Michael Johnson coming into this fight, because he was on such a good tear with wins over Lozon, Tebow, and Guillard leading up to his his time off, his injury, and then he was suspended for a domestic thing. A whole bunch of question marks around him. The problem is he's just been off for a year now, and I wonder.
Playing up the ring rust factor, eh?
I'm playing up the ring rust factor. He's going up against Edson Barbosa, who, besides losing to Cowboy Cerrone, has been pretty much unstoppable over the last couple of years. And his wins over Green and more so Dunham would suggest that. I like Edson Barbosa slightly here. There's a big question mark around Michael Johnson, is that there's been reports that he's not in Brazil yet, and he doesn't plan on going to Brazil until later on in the week, so like Thursday maybe, which there's a big time difference to where they're going in Brazil, which is way off on the eastern seaboard. That's why it's airing so early here in North America, and it's Brazil. You're going down there. People are spitting at you, yelling at you, and we saw Michael Johnson against Reza Madadi when he went into Stockholm, Sweden, and he allowed the the energy. He was par for the course. He was ready for it all, and he kind of antagonized the crowd, which is good. But you also kind of wonder, does that eat away at you a bit? That was, his last big loss was against Reza Madadi, a guy who now, if you look at if he ended up having to fight Reza Madadi at this point in his career, we would be like, well, he would probably be like a -300, -400 favorite.
But you would have to tell Reza Madadi, put down the lady's handbag.
My concern is maybe he gets too emotional going into this hostile Brazilian crowd. So I'm going to go with Edson Barbosa here, but a close fight nonetheless.
Yeah, I disagree with you. I know I took Mir in the first fight being the underdog, but I was iffy on it. This one, I like Michael Johnson here. You mentioned the fact that other than the Donald Cerrone fight, he's been near unstoppable. But his first loss, the Jamie Varner fight, really illustrated that if you bring the fire to him, he will break. And the Danny Castillo fight, once again, he's doing good, and then the fire starts to come his way. That was maybe a 10-8 round. It ended up being a majority decision. Another fight that could go either way. I really like Michael Johnson here. I like him for a number of reasons. Ever since he started with the Black Zillions at Henry Hoof, his footwork has become phenomenally better, infinitely better. And if you look at the progression that he's made, before he lost to Reza Madadi and Miles Jury, he was actually, you could see the beginning of his run starting. Then he got sidelined. Now he's fully on. The win over Joe Lozon, sure, great. The knockout over Tebow, that was big. And the win over Melvin Guillard, who Melvin's maybe a little faded now, but a big win nonetheless. I get that he's taking time off, but just look at the tape on him. Look at the tape on him.
Yeah, but he's been using his striking against all of these guys, and I think now he's met his match in terms of a guy who will probably be able to outperform him on the field.
No, see, I disagree with you here, because Edson Barbosa is faster. Edson Barbosa maybe has cleaner, crisper striking. He's got the spin moves. He's got maybe a more traditional martial arts background. But the issue is, if you fight fire with his fire, then he's going to break. In the Donald Cerrone fight, we saw he was winning those exchanges. He was beating Donald Cerrone. He was killing him. A stiff jab, floored him. A stiff jab floored him. Michael Johnson throws great combinations. He sets up the right hand. I may be overplaying his footwork, but people, go and watch the tape. And for a guy who looked terrible on The Ultimate Fighter, he made a lot of improvements. I know the year off is going to hurt him because the ring rust, I get that. But if he's stayed in the gym, if he's stayed with Henry Hoof, if he's stayed grounded, then that's huge.
Then
and the last point I want to throw on this.
But are you not worried about the hostile territory?
No, I'll tell you.
This happened to him in Sweden.
It did.
And the Brazilian people are a hell of a lot more mean than the Swedes.
Well, if you look at the weigh-in with Michael Johnson and Reza Madadi, he gets in his face and loses it. And I think really, as a young guy, and you look back at that, I got really anxious for that. I got too fired up. And then in the fight, I burnt myself out. He learned from that. And like I said, he's a better fighter now because of that loss. So I think he'll make the improvements, no doubt. But to your point, he hasn't gone to Brazil yet. People are worried he's not going to go to Brazil. He's a Black Zillion. He trains with a room full of Brazilians. They're not telling him, Michael, you got to go down. They're telling him, it's okay. You're going to come down with us. We'll take care of you. We've got friends down there. We've got a place down there. We've got a doctor down there. We'll rehydrate you. The jet lag's not that bad. He's being taken care of. He hangs out with a room full of Brazilians. They are watching him. Michael Johnson's my pick here, and I love the underdog status. Sign me up. Michael de Menace.
All right, Cody's on Michael Johnson. I'm on Edson Barbosa in that fight. We move on to the middleweight division where we've got Cesar Mutanche Ferreira taking on Smiling Sam Alvey. Ferreira's a -300 favorite with the comeback on Alvey plus 240. Who do you got here?
Well, Cesar Ferreira is busted prospect, so I'm actually kind of surprised that he's still getting big odds.
He's coming off of a win over Andrew Craig.
Yeah, which is his first good win, I suppose, if you consider Andrew Craig to be a kind of gatekeeper of the division. He's got the win over Thiago Santos, which he choked him out in like 47 seconds, but let's face it, that CB Dalloway fight, and especially the split decision win over Daniel Sarafian.
He was doing everything he had to do in that Dalloway. I think what he learned in that fight is that you can't just over-pursue, because that's what happened against Dalloway. You had him backed up in the corner, he was coming at him aggressive, and pop.
But even the Daniel Sarafian fight, Sarafian's the guy that moved down to 170 pounds.
Yep.
And I remember, I had a lot of money on Ferreira in that fight. I remember biting my nails the whole time, and when they read the decision, I thought he won, but I was very glad, thinking, oh my God, split decision once again. He has not impressed me the ways he should have, and I only say that because this is another guy who's a black Brazilian, but he was supposed to be Vitor Belfort's protege. What the hell happened to that, man? All
he's
jokes
got the
aside,
physique.
He certainly has the physique. Yeah, no doubt about it. I am picking him here. I like Sam Alvey.
It's hard to like Sam Alvey at this point.
It is.
Or
it is.
at this level of competition. In the MFC, he's great. He's really good around that level of competition, but he's been exposed. When you lose to Tom Watson, it's...
I'd like to point something out.
If he lost to Dylan Andrews in his last fight, he would have been cut. Obviously, good knockout win by him to get it done and keep the dream alive here. But
if you look at his MFC run, okay, because he won the title, he's got a 4th round stoppage and a 5th round stoppage. And if you watch the fights, you're yelling at the TV screen saying, "Sam Alvey, do something! Do something!" And he just doesn't. He just doesn't. But then in the 4th and 5th round, you're tired. He's still there smiling. He takes you out. The Tom Watson fight, for the first 2 rounds, he didn't do a thing. He didn't do a single thing. In the 3rd round, he's almost got Watson out. That could have been his fight. It's his lack of killer instinct that bothers me. I know he knocked out Dylan Andrews in his last fight, but unfortunately that was a botched takedown attempt that knocked out Dylan Andrews. That wasn't anything particular that Sam Alvey did. He did not invent that move. It was a bit of a slip. He slammed his own head into the mat. That's it. Sam Alvey does not have the killer instinct to win a 3-round fight. If this was 5 rounds, I would actually go Sam Alvey because I don't think Ferreira's got the juice. But it's 3 rounds, Cesar Ferreira for the win. And probably by decision.
I think we're a long ways away from the era where this would be a 5-round fight in the octagon.
Hey, if this was the MFC and both of these guys could reasonably end up there soon enough, who knows? Point
taken. All right, don't go anywhere. When we come back, we will break down the rest of the main card from Porto, Alegre, Brazil, when Bookie Beatdown returns. Welcome back to Bookie Beatdown. Paul Shaughnessy and Cody Saftik here with you. All right, we're going to move on to the lightweight division where we've got Rustam Khabilov taking on Adriano Martins. Rustam Khabilov's a -350 favorite with the comeback on Martins plus 260. I love Rustam Khabilov in this fight.
Love him.
Love him. For instance, in his fight against Benson Henderson, he won the first 2 rounds in that fight. This is a 3-round fight.
Outing.
He beats Benson Henderson. Benson Henderson goes on to beat Brendan Thatch. Benson Henderson is maybe the best guy without a belt.
So you're saying in MMA
pounds.
math, Rustam Khabilov could maybe take 2 rounds from Brendan Thatch. Is that what you're saying?
Essentially. But
I get it.
Long story short, we saw him against Masvidal with his spinning kick. Masvidal one hell of a chin to not get knocked out by that. We've seen Adriano Martins get knocked out by Donald Cowboy Cerrone.
A full-on shin to the head, may I add.
Full-on shin to the head, but I would be willing to wager that if Rustam Khabilov landed that spinning kick to the head of Adriano Martins, it would be night-night for Martins as well. I like Rustam Khabilov to get it done early, often. -350. The line's actually moved quite a bit. When it opened, I believe, yesterday or the day before, it was -235, which was obviously even better. If you got on that, good for you. But even at minus 350, I still like him. What about you?
Yeah, definitely a fair assessment. Ruslan Khabilov is a guy that I think a lot of people still think might contend for a title down the road. I mean, Greg Jackson's certainly high up on the guy. We all know he's really good. I'm not 100% sure that he finishes Martins. Martins not bad at all. When he fought Darren Cruikshank, he absolutely annihilated him. Now, I'm not talking just about the submission finish, but he dropped him multiple times. And then his last fight, sorry to take one out of your book, he fought Juan Manuel Puig, who is, in my opinion, the worst guy currently on the UFC's roster. And that's saying a lot because they got a lot of bad guys now. Unfortunately, yeah, he just, when he kind of jumps up to the higher, I mean, Cruikshank's a very high-level guy, but when he fights maybe that level, he maybe gets a little bit gun-shy. And Ruslan Khabilov, he's going to come at you. Once again, I don't know if he gets the finish here, but for minus 350, I'm all in on this. And I've already put a heavy bet on a small parlay, but Khabilov definitely, because minus 350 is going to get up to minus 500 come fight time. So bet it now.
100% going to get up to minus 500. We saw it last week with the likes of Ray Borg, who started at minus 400, minus 450, and by fight time minus 1100.
Ridiculous.
So get on it early and often, folks. Another fight that basically fits the same mold as that is Yuri Alcantara taking on Frankie Sands. Yuri Alcantara is a minus 375 favorite with the comeback on Sands plus 285. I like Yuri to get it done here as well. I wasn't too impressed by his performance against Russell Doan. I thought that he actually robbed Russell Doan. Where did the fight happen to be? In Brazil. Brazilian judges gave him all 3 rounds, or actually maybe not all 3 rounds, but they gave him a unanimous card, and Yuri Alcantara comes away with the victory, leaving one Russell Doan to try to fight back. Obviously, this isn't really a step-up fight for Yuri Alcantara. This is a fight that he should 100% win. The one question that you have is he's 35 years old. He's kind of been around the block. He's had that opportunity to fight the elite when he fought Uriah Faber, and he learned maybe I'm not going to be a top guy. So maybe that's weighing on the guy's head, but I think he should be able to really take care of Frankie Sands anyway he chooses, as long as the Yuri Alcantara that we've known to grow and love shows up on Fight Night.
Well, it's just weird to me that I don't know if his management is specifically picking these guys, or how does he keep getting matched up with them, because he's a consensus top 15 guy. He won the first round against Faber. He's fought good level competition. He's currently on a winning streak, and he's fighting Frankie Sands. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense with me. You mentioned the fact that he's 35 years old. Well, Sands is 34 years old, so he's not exactly a spring chicken.
It's true.
From the tape that I've watched on Sands,
it's just that Sands, I guess in fight years, with only 11 fights under his belt.
Yeah,
you got Alcantara, 31-5, 36. So he's fought over 3 times more than him.
Yeah, see, Sands got his UFC debut, I believe, against a guy named Nolan Tickman, who had only had 5 fights.
Unanimous decision win for him.
So the fact is, you took 15 minutes to beat a guy who had less than 5 fights coming into it. Not exactly a known guy, not exactly on anybody's radar. Now you're jumping up a big fight, not only against a guy that is well known, but in Brazil. It kind of doesn't make sense. I'm not saying pass in this fight by no means, but I don't really like Alcantara. He's slowing down fast. And 2 things about him that I don't particularly like. One is that he seems to be getting worse every performance. So I'm insinuating that he's a completely clean fighter, and now that he is in his mid-30s, he is slowing down and breaking apart. So that is something to watch out for. I'm not saying that his opponent Frankie Sands is on anything. I'm just saying you can kind of see, kind of like Bigfoot Silva, you can physically see the guy breaking apart, and I don't like that. The other thing is that him and his brother Ildemar run their own gym, Marajo Brothers team.
Yep.
Don't train yourself, man. That is a bad idea. You need to go somewhere and train with better guys. And that is a little bit worrisome. I am betting him. The line hasn't gotten that crazy out of line yet, but if this guy blew my parlay, I'd kick myself in the head and say, why did I even put him on there? I wasn't really big on him.
I'm not going to lie, the only way I think that he ruins your parlay is if
he breaks his foot and calls it a day.
If he gets finished or something like that, because this goes to decision in Brazil. We've seen it before.
Is that home cooking I smell, Paul?
Is that acai that you've got over there?
Some home cooking.
A little bit of Brazilian barbecue for the mix there? Yeah, definitely some home cooking. Sean Strickland comes in as a favorite against Santiago Ponzinibbio. Sean Strickland can be had at minus 180 with the comeback on Santiago Ponzinibbio plus 150. Who do you got?
Well, Ponzinibbio looked like a house on fire his last time against Wendell Oliveira and showed some big striking prowess. Like, the guy can hit. He's very kind of tall, 5'11", has some decent range on him. But Sean Strickland, The fact is, he did not look good against Luke Barnett. He did not look good. But now he's dropping down to 170 pounds, and I think that'll make a world of difference for him. I really do. Because he's a big guy to begin with. At 23
and
years
he's young,
of age,
he's just getting
he's
better.
so young. He's getting better and better every time. And I think that now that he's going to be the bigger guy, he's going to get those takedowns easier. He's not going to have to work as hard. And I can totally see him putting it on Santiago Ponzinibbio and forcing the win here.
If he doesn't get the finish, it would be a worry to me. I think we are going to see at least one, maybe multiple terrible decisions on this card on Sunday.
And correct me if I'm wrong, someone at home will know this better, but I believe Santiago Ponzinibbio is like Argentinian. He's not even Brazilian. He was on Tough Brazil. He kind of has that homecoming thing, but I don't think that he is born in Brazil. So that one might play out both ways. Maybe they hate him. Maybe they hate him. I don't know.
We've also seen this before in Boston with Cathal Pendred somehow pulling off a win over Sean Spencer.
Fair enough.
There are crooked judges all over the globe, and we just try to avoid them here on Bookie Beatdown. Don't go anywhere. More Bookie Beatdown coming right up. Welcome back to Bookie Beatdown. Paul Shaughnessy and Cody Saptic here with you. All right, we're going to move on to the women's bantamweight division where we've got Jessica Andrade taking on Marion Renault. Jessica Andrade comes into this fight as a minus 245 favorite with the comeback on Renault plus 185. Renault went in as a pretty big underdog. She's almost been kind of an underdog maybe her whole career.
Wow, very good point.
37-year-old woman went in against Alex Dufresne, and I believe you were really big on Dufresne.
I'll apologize for it.
And Marion Renault, another thing as the underdog, the underdog theme is strong with this one. She was supposed to go on The Ultimate Fighter, but Dana White told her, "You're too old. Sorry."
Well, no, it's funny.
Go win a couple more fights, and maybe we'll have time for you.
Well,
and she went off, won a couple fights, comes in, looked incredible in her fight against Dufresne. It was actually almost like painful. She won a scorecard of 30-26, 30-26, and 30-25, just obliterating Alex Dufresne and basically sending Dufresne packing on her way back to the regional circuit. And this is a tough matchup, obviously, in tough confines, being that it's in Brazil. But as a plus 185 underdog, and you always have to find underdogs that you think can potentially come through, I like Renault. And I think if it stays standing on the feet, she was really impressive. She seemed to have really good technique. She's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu as well. And so I don't think she's too afraid to go to the ground. But if she's able to keep it up on the feet against Andrade, I think she can get it done here.
You know what? I don't disagree with you. I think Marion Renault is a very smart pick here. I was very surprised to see that she's plus 180 because she looked really good against Dufresne, and I apologize. I thought Dufresne was going to kill her because I read stuff on her UFC.com profile page. She had mentioned things like, I don't mind getting taken down. She was only a brown belt in BJJ, and Dufresne had some high-level credentials. She was a stay-at-home mom. She was 37 years old. Unfortunately, this girl can go, man.
This is the most badass stay-at-home mom in the world, maybe.
Super cool. And just after her win, Dana invites her to the press conference, and I mean, she only fielded a handful of questions, but she was down to earth. And the way she said, hi to her kid after she won the fight. I mean, this is a girl who's focused. And I remember back to this UFC.com questionnaire when they asked her, why'd you start fighting? She's like, because I can make money for my kid doing this. And as a 37-year-old person, you got to stop living those dreams. But the fact that she is going down that road, she's confident in herself, she has great stand-up, as we mentioned, and we haven't even seen that brown belt. But I have a feeling it's probably good. Now we look at Andrade here, and I like Jessica Andrade, cute girl, but at 23, there's still a lot of lessons for her to be had, and this is probably going to be one of those lessons. And what else I'll take from this is she looked good against Larissa Pacheco, a girl who just blew her load too early into the fight,
and I think
got tired.
Pacheco only had that stand-up
Yes.
game, and we already knew that was her path to victory. Now, Andrade's last loss was against Liz Carmouche, and that was in a fight where she was out-grappled. So if Andrade is able to grapple against you, that is her path to success. We've seen her wins over Pacheco, Pennington, and Sexton.
She has to grapple here.
But
I think
other way. I think Renault can stop her from being able to take her down and just obliterate her on the feet.
Well, Renault's takedown defense, that was the thing that I took out because Dufresne, we knew she was purely a grappler.
That's all she was going for.
And she stuffed those takedowns, no problem. But
and
here's
she was
something
way smaller than Dufresne.
There's something very important to look at is when you look at this board here, this tail of the tape almost between the two of them. Marion Renault with a 68-inch reach, which is probably standard for the division. Now you've got Jessica Andrade. a 62-inch reach. They might as well call her the T-Rex because she has no reach. I don't know that I've ever seen 62 inches on a UFC fighter before as a reach. I don't think I've ever seen that. And now that you're giving up 6 inches with a girl whose nickname is the Bruiser, if you don't get this fight down, you are going to get tuned up. And so not only do I like her here, but as we were talking to our friend, the World Mind Chris Murphy earlier, it's good when you have somebody that might just bank up points through just continuous beating. So if you like to play DraftKings or you like to play counter move, she's good for that too, because it could be 15 minutes of just beating.
And that's what she did against Dufresne.
She was the highest scoring person.
Piled up points like crazy.
So
Complete
definitely a good
domination
bet.
from
Both
bell
ways.
to bell.
Both ways I like her here.
All right, we'll move on. We've got William Macario taking on Matt Dwyer. I know that you are very passionate about one Matt Dwyer, so I'll just let you to take it away right now.
Well, Matt Dwyer, Canadian guy, so we generally always support the Canadian guys, and a Toshido MMA guy, so, I like his camp. But he's one of those guys where the promoter has just been catering to him. Oh, Matt, we want to get you. You're such a good guy, Matt. We want you to go to the UFC. So they bring in Shoney Carter. No, a ghost of Shoney Carter. No, a shell of a ghost of Shoney Carter. And still, Dwyer takes a full 15 minutes before Shoney says, I don't want to fight a 4th round, and leaves. Then they bring in DeMarcus Johnson, who's fighting a weight class up, who's in atrocious shape. And DeMarcus
given up on the dream at this point.
And
in his
DeMarcus
career.
beats him up good, and then he gets so unbelievably tired. Dwyer comes back and gets the win. Those were very concerning for me, to the point that when the UFC signed him, I went out of my way to say that he's going to get killed. I don't know who he's going to fight, but whoever he fights, he will get killed. I didn't realize they're going to put him up against Tumanov, but he got killed, as rightfully so. And I think he gets killed here too. I know that Padalino had trouble against Magny's reach, but that's not going to matter because Dwyer has no freaking idea what reach is and how to use it. He's going to allow Padalino to walk right into the pocket, hit him, and I think he's going down. I think 1st round stoppage. But regardless, I like William Macario here.
I couldn't agree with you more. I've got Macario, I've got Alcantara, and I've got Habulov on a 3-way parlay, and I've loaded up pretty big on that one. And hoping for a successful one. I'm pretty confident it's going to come through. Obviously, anything can happen in MMA, but that's a parlay. If you're going to take 3 favorites on this card and smash them together, I think those are the 3 guys to target, in my opinion.
Definitely. And it's like we talked about. When you're taking a big favorite, right, you want to know, well, my guy's got ways to finish this fight. And
All
maybe
3 of those guys, I think, can finish the fight early.
And flip side, if you're a Matt Dwyer supporter and you're at home yelling and cursing me right now and saying, "What? This guy doesn't know Matt Dwyer's a hell of a guy." He probably is a hell of a guy. But unfortunately, I just don't see how he finishes this fight. So his best case scenario is to squeak out a split decision. A Canadian getting a split decision over a Brazilian in Brazil? Wait, Paul?
Not
you smell
going
that?
to
You smell
happen,
that? Home
no.
cooking. There's really no way for Dwyer to get the win here. And for that reason, staying away from him and going Willie Macario.
Off to the featherweight division where we've got Thiago Trator taking on Mike Delatorre. Thiago Trator is a minus 195 favorite with the comeback on Delatorre, plus 160. Who do you got?
I actually got Delatorre here. I know in his debut, we talk about this all the time. He was such a big underdog against Bocek, but he did impress. And then in his next
He looked
fight,
great. He made Bocek look like he had lost a step.
He basically made Bocek retire.
Yeah.
I mean, he called it a day after that, realizing
exactly.
I can't hop around with these guys.
These young kids coming in on short notice are outworking me. They've just got a better gas tank.
Funny story is that he takes that fight short notice at 55. Then he drops down to 45 for his next fight against Brian Ortega. People actually think he's got a chance. Smoked. But as it turns out,
Brian
Ortega's maybe on a little something.
Yep.
So it's explainable. Against Thiago Trator, I was not impressed with him in his respective UFC debut. I know he comes in with that Muay Thai background, but he's very skinny almost. Like he's got a weird build to him that I think it might be easy to drag him to the ground. And we know Mike Delatorre, training out of the MMA lab, training with guys like Benson Henderson.
Got a lot of good bodies hanging around there that he can hang out with.
Benson Henderson looked great his last time out. Subsequently on the same card, Efren Escudero looked great on the card. These guys dealing with John Crouch, they're getting so much extra times on.
You got Mitch Danger Zone Clark fighting out of that gym too. He's getting ready, I believe, for Montreal.
Yeah, and Mitch is a guy that we all used to joke about how bad he wasn't, making improvements.
No,
and
definitely.
that's a direct influence on the camp that he's training at. So with Mike Delatorre here, another guy that's the underdog, I realize that he's fighting a Brazilian in Brazil, so all jokes aside, hopefully it doesn't come down to a razor-close split decision. But unfortunately, he's big, he's strong. I think if he drags the fight to the ground, this is actually his to win, so I'm going to go Delatorre.
Couldn't agree with you more. All right, don't go anywhere. We will break down the rest of the card when Bookie Beatdown returns. Welcome back to Bookie Beatdown. Paul Shaughnessy and Cody Saftik here with you. All right, off we go to the welterweight division where we've got Wendell Oliveira taking on TJ Wahlberger. Wendell Oliveira is a minus 135 favorite with the comeback on Wahlberger plus 105. We're talking to our boy Chris Murphy, our at World Mind, and he's really big on Oliveira here. I don't know if I'm really big on either one of these guys in this fight. TJ Wahlberger has proven in losing 3 of his last 4 fights that he is not to be trusted. Obviously, losses to Mike Pyle, not the worst. Adlan Amagov, a really highly touted prospect until he took some time off. And Brian Ebersol, a gritty veteran, with his only win in that stretch coming over Nick Catone. But first round knockout loss to Santiago Ponzinibbio. I don't know. Maybe obviously Oliveira moving down to 170 for this fight. That may help him out a little bit. But this is a real stay-away fight. Obviously, it's a really close fight on paper. I'm not seeing a good side of either one of them, so I'm going to straight up pass.
Yeah, see, I'm actually going with Wahlberger on this one. Wendell Oliveira, he took his fight against short notice, but he's basically a stand-up guy. That's his go-to, is a stand-up guy. Now, I think what Chris Murphy was looking at was the fact that TJ Wahlberger has been knocked out a lot. And I mean a lot. Even those last 2 fights you're talking about, Mike Pyle and Adlan Amagov, both knocked him out. I remember him
Mike
fighting...
Pyle doesn't knock that many guys out.
I know. And what I mean... He's got some decent hands on him. But I know what you mean.
He's got good hands. I just mean he doesn't...
It's Wahlberger's been slapped silly a lot. And when you're looking at him fighting Wendell Oliveira, Brazilian in Brazil, that hits hard, I think maybe that's what you would assume. Unfortunately, I actually am going to go with Wahlberger here. Number of reasons. One, he's 26 years old. That, to me, was amazing. That jumped off at the screen and slapped me in the face. 26 years old. Because he made his debut in 2005, which works out to be 10 years ago. Which works out to be when he was 16 years old. 16. The guy's been fighting for 10 years. He's only 26.
He's our Jordan Meehan.
He really is. And the other thing is, you watch him fight, he has no stand-up. He has none. That's why he gets knocked out all the time. But his submissions are off the chain, man. He just, from one thing to the other, to the other. It is basically the picture-perfect, no-gi grappling. I'm surprised he doesn't have more submission wins than he does, to be honest with you. But really, I am very, very, very impressed with his ability to just chain submissions together. I believe him versus... David Dottie Mitchell from back in the day, back when he was still with the UFC. I believe it's the most submission attempts in a fight between the two of them going back and forth. And what leads me to believe is that if I'm his coaching staff, I'm telling him, Tej, you basically can't take a punch. It's not going to happen. It's not happening. Get this guy to the ground. If you have to pull guard, pull guard. You're going to catch him with something eventually. And that's the way I see it going. I think TJ Wahlberger needs this win for his career. He might as well retire if he loses this. And that's a very crazy thing to think when you're 26 years old. So I don't think he loses here. I think he beats Wendell Oliveira, who's a little kind of out of his element, probably gets a submission win. Sign me up for some TJ Wahlberger.
Cody likes Wahlberger. I'm saying straight up pass on that fight. Off we go to the bantamweight division where we've got Douglas Da Silva de Andrade as the underdog against Cody the Renegade Gibson. Cody Gibson can be had at minus 260 with a comeback on Silva de Andrade plus 200. After seeing Cody Gibson's infamous TMZ video or whatever, I know that guy was probably a 205er, maybe a 205er walking around at 220.
And I know Gibson was intoxicated.
And he didn't look too good in that. And
dude, he was going to get that takedown, and the other guy's buddy screwed him.
In all seriousness, you got Da Silva de Andrade, who's a knockout specialist. 18 of his wins have come by KO or TKO. Taking on Gibson. Gibson's going to want to utilize his wrestling, his collegiate wrestling background, and take this fight to the mat. My concern is that, obviously, and we've been talking about it all this whole way through, is Cody Gibson's strategy is probably to win a unanimous decision in this type of fight. In Brazil, when there's a whole bunch of angry Brazilians screaming. I know this is the first fight, but those arenas in Brazil fill up very, very quickly. I can't in good faith lay almost 3-1 on my money on Cody Gibson against really anybody in the UFC, let alone him going over to Brazil to fight a Brazilian. So it's a dog or pass situation for me. I wouldn't get caught speeding on either side of this, but if you had a gun to my head, I'm going to go with Silva de Andrade in this fight.
Really, it's a picture-perfect matchup for Cody Gibson when you factor in that he's a very big bantamweight, big for the weight class. He has that wrestling pedigree, still teaches high school wrestling to my knowledge.
He couldn't take down that guy at the bar, though.
No, he did take him down, okay? He gets the single leg, and the guy's buddy comes and screws him. We're going to play the tape for the viewers. They're going to be the judges for themselves.
I don't think we can use that tape.
Maybe not. Just check it out, though. Check it out. Back to Cody Gibson here. It's a good fight for him in terms of stylistically, how he matches up. But it's as you said. For minus 260, there's no value here. There's none whatsoever. And so for that reason, I, too, am going to pass on Cody Gibson. I like him. In fact, he was doing the Tachi Palace broadcast the other day. So I shot out him and TJ DeSantis, the old, hey, what's up, you're doing a good job. And he was doing a good job. I like him. And he's really got to save our Cody name in the UFC because Cody Fister last week really blew it. But
not many of you guys left.
For money here, it's just not smart. It's not smart to put 260 on Gibson. And on the flip side, like you were saying, dog or pass, I don't like the dog because I think Gibson's ground game is going to be the death of him. So count me out of this one. I'm going to pass.
And finally, we've got Ivan George taking on Josh Shockley. Who do you got?
This one's a toss-up. Josh Shockley has got a good wrestling background. He's got a good grappling background. But the way he was taken against Jason Sago, he got taken down against the fence, subsequently subbed in the first round, that's worrisome. Because Ivan George, that's about all he's got. He's super good on top, good top game, but he's not all that good. The X Factor here, sorry to throw that out, the X Factor is I'm pretty sure Ivan George fought Keith Wisniewski in the UFC, and it was a really grind him out, drag him out affair that he beat Wisniewski. Wisniewski's like one of the head trainers at Dunlin Valley Tudo, which is where Shockley trains. So if you're Ivan George, no one's saying, hey, he trains at the same gym as Wisniewski, because he doesn't even remember that guy. He doesn't remember the gym. But if you were this kid, you've got Wisniewski telling you, listen, Josh, this is how you beat this guy. So maybe another pass? Maybe another pass?
I don't even know. I think that just basically sold me on the fact that I think Shockley's going to get the win here.
But he's got a good chance. He really does.
Ivan George, who's lost to Rodrigo Dam. Anybody who's listened to this podcast before knows how I feel about Rodrigo Dam.
Rodrigo going back up to 55 too, right?
Rodrigo's gotta put an end to it. Well, good for him. He can keep fighting as long as he wants. Just
Shockley's
probably not at this level because he's the guy everyone. You basically the UFC tosses you. Rodrigo Dam as like here, get back on track.
He's training with his sister.
If you lose to him, you're not part of the solution. You're part of the problem.
Fair enough.
Coming up, we will break down. It's a new segment for us. We're going to break down this card, UFC Fight Night 61, from a counter move and DraftKings perspective. So you don't want to miss it if you're into fantasy MMA. Welcome back to Bookie Beatdown. Paul Shaughnessy and Cody Saftik here with you. All right, this is a new segment for us, and we're exploring fantasy MMA. The two big sites out there. We've got DraftKings and Countermove. Now, if you haven't played fantasy MMA before, this isn't straight picks, guys. Like you can't just hope that all of your guys are going to win. It helps if they win. But, this is based on performance. So significant strikes landed and takedowns, reversals. If you finish somebody in the first round, those are the guys that you're probably trying to target across the board, whether you're on Countermove or DraftKings. A first-round finish is basically the highest you're going to get. We were talking earlier about Marion Renault, and that was a 3-round complete one-sided beating. Okay, but there's not many fights that are going to last that long without a finish going down as it is. So you're looking for guys who are going to finish and finish early. So for Countermove, I have selected, I've got Khabibulov, Macario, and Alcantara, all three guys that I believe are going to get it done and could get it done earlier. And, Khabibulov at 5,000. Macario at 5,400, Alcantara 5,200. Then, now I've put myself in a situation where I've got to, I got to take a little bit maybe lower level scrubs. Well, I'm already high on Marion Renault, and she was the highest fantasy producer in her last fight against Alex Dufresne. So she comes onto the squad at 4,600, and then basically had like 4,800 left. Had to go with somebody. I picked Silva de Andrade. He's got 18 knockout wins in his career. So if he's going to win, probably by knockout. I know, our boy Cody the Renegade Gibson, not the easiest guy to finish, pretty durable guy, but, them's the breaks. Sometimes you just have to pick somebody.
That's exactly it. You're going to get to a point where you're going to spend so much money that's going to be like, okay, I don't necessarily think this guy's going to win, but he'll probably score some points along the way. But I really like your strategy in that you're taking a guy you don't necessarily think he's going to win, but you think if he is going to win, he'll knock out Cody Gibson. And I have the same thing with Michael Johnson. As we already talked in this podcast, I really like Michael Johnson to win here. But I have him doing one of two things. Either he's going to do like Marion Renault and he'll have 15 straight minutes of punches accumulating.
Punches and bunches.
Punches and bunches, baby. And if one of those eventually puts down Edson Barboza, not crazy to think that one of them's going to put down Edson Barboza.
And the good thing about having a guy like him, if
points.
you're trying to do a bit of a swerve on people, is that a lot of people may have Edson Barboza, or a lot of people are probably going to stay away from that fight because they don't know which way it's going to go. So if he does come through, you're probably in a favorable position. Whereas when I pick guys like Khabibulov, Macario, and Alcantara, most teams are probably going to have that on their team.
What I've noticed from playing the DraftKings and the counter move games is that a lot of the time when you look at the winning team, they have somebody on there that you think to yourself, how the hell did he?
Yeah,
why
it's
did
like
he
Makwan Amirkhani. I ended up doing well on Fox 14. And I did well, but it was all the guys right at the top had Makwan Amirkhani. Now, a lot of those guys, you got to figure, they probably just were rolling the dice. They got lucky.
That's exactly it. You're rolling the dice. You're rolling the dice, and you're getting lucky. Now, one thing that neither of these games factor in is who is the underdog. So a guy like me, this guy's a 4-1 underdog, and he might win. Don't bother here. You don't care about underdog stats. You want who's going to win, and beyond all that, because winning's not everything. Who's going to do as much damage in as little time as possible? Get in there, get the job done. I like your picks, but I'm also going with Michael Johnson. And I know we talked about earlier how Ivan George, maybe not the best guy to pick against Shockley. Shockley, a great chance. But this is another guy that I'm fanning a little bit because if he's going to win, I think he gets it done early. Otherwise, he's pooched. He's done. It'll probably go 3 rounds.
And then on DraftKings, I've got, obviously, the prices are a little bit different. And DraftKings are kind of set up that, the good guys are really, really expensive, and then there's nobody really in the center, and then there's a lot of scrubs at the bottom.
But I noticed how expensive Bigfoot was, and it was shocking.
Well, yeah,
I have no idea how he got that. So pass on him.
The argument, though, is that he could very well finish Frank Mir if he's going to win.
Listen, but Alistair Overeem finish him.
On DraftKings, I've got Khabibulov, I've got Macario again, I've got Renault, because she's only 8,400.
She was very cheap. I was very impressed with that.
Mike Delatorre, because I think he's an underdog that could get it done. I don't really like his finishing abilities, don't get me wrong, but somebody had to fill it in. And then Michael Johnson, who is your guy as well. So those are our guys. We were talking to Chris Murphy earlier on.
Chris was definitely.
Who do we have here from him?
We talked a little bit about how Michael Johnson, how it was very possible that he gets the finish, and I know that was somebody liked. But two guys that he was really big up on was Sean Strickland and Wendell Oliveira. And as we talked with Wendell Oliveira, this is a guy that strictly has striking, fighting a guy in TJ Wahlberger who has no striking.
And has a propensity to get knocked out. So if Wendell is going to win, he probably will ice him early.
So it's a smart pick, actually, because even though a guy like me, I have Wahlberger, but even though you're looking at it, you say, well, who has a chance of getting knocked out in the first round? TJ Wahlberger.
And he is the type of guy like Makwan Amirkhani that we were alluding to in Fox 14, where not too many people are probably going to have Wendell Oliveira on their team.
That's precisely, and I think with Sean Strickland, the people think, oh, you know what? Didn't he rob somebody the last time out? Yeah, I think he robbed somebody. What's this Ponzinibbio? Oh, that's the hometown guy. They're not factoring in, as we mentioned. One guy's Argentine. And the other guy, Strickland going down to 170, that could be the real difference maker here. I mean, at 23 years old, he's a big boy. And I know sometimes when you make your UFC debut, you don't want to cut all that much weight. But now that he's seen the competitive landscape and he's going back down, he might pull another Bubba McDaniel. And if he does that, that's a thrashing. That's as many points as you can score when you thrash a guy that badly in the first round.
Any other picks on Chris's cheat sheet there?
Well, Chris also liked Cesar Muchante Ferreira from what he's telling us. And you know what? I don't necessarily agree or disagree with that because Sam Alvey is hard to put away. But if he goes for the submission route, that's a way. And also, even if he doesn't submit Sam Alvey, he's another guy that can get some punch output, significant strikes landed. We saw Tom Watson land a lot of significant strikes when he fought Sam Alvey. So a good angle there for sure. And if you can get it for the right price, then yeah, by all means.
That concludes our fantasy MMA breakdown here for Counter Move and DraftKings. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we are going to give you our straight picks for UFC Fight Night 61. So don't you go anywhere. Welcome back to Bookie Beatdown. Paul Shaughnessy and Cody Saftik here with you. All right, we're just about out of time, but before we go, we're going to give you our picks of the week. So, Cody, why don't you get us started?
It's not so much that I'm picking William Patalino Macario, so much that I'm picking against Matt Dwyer. Matt Dwyer is 6'4" and he trains at a good gym. He could be good. He's 25 years old. That's not to say that someday he won't be good, but he got spoon-fed his way to the UFC, and that's going to cost him. And guess what? It's going to cost him starting Sunday night. And it's not going to cost me. It's going to benefit me in the money department. So I'm sorry, Matt Dwyer. I am a patriotic Canadian, but I'm going strongly against him. So give me William Macario.
Going to be a tough matchup for Dwyer down in Porto Alegre. And I'm going to go with a Russian going against a Brazilian because I don't think that this is going to go to the scorecards. I've got Rustam, Tiger, Habulov. I think he's going to just have his way with them. If he wants to ragdoll him like he did against Vince Pichel in his UFC,
German suplex him,
just toss him around, do whatever he wants with him. If he wants to do spin kicks like he did against one Jorge Masvidal, I think he's going to be able to do that. I know the price is a little bit steep on this one, but I really don't see a way that he loses this. So I've loaded up on him on counter move. I have parlays all over the place with him on it. I've got my one big parlay of the week, which is Macario, Habulov, and Alcantara. That's one I'm telling you guys right now, like, I don't want to be responsible if you lose money on it. But if you do bet on that, be known that I am also losing money with you because I loaded up fully on that 3-fight parlay. But that's all the time that we have for now. Hope you enjoyed the show. So for Cody Saftik, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.